Hey there. Hey everyone. This is Luis Diaz. I'm the Chief Patient Officer at Medtronic, and I'd like to welcome you to our MiniMed 670G system discussion. I've got Carrie, my partner from Medtronic, but we have a special guest. John is one of the first patients to use the MiniMed 670G system, so we're delighted, thrilled to have you with us, John. I know that a lot of you have been excited, thrilled, have a lot of questions since we first announced the launch of an approval of MiniMed 670G system in September. I know you're waiting. I know you're eager to know how does the system work, when can I get it. That's the reason why we brought John in, to tell you a lot about what he has experienced with the system. He's been using it for more than a year, and we're just ready to ask him a lot of questions. We'll welcome a lot of your questions. But before we go there, I'd love to have Carrie tell us about safety information.
Yes, it's really important that if anyone has questions or wants to look at important safety information about the MiniMed 670G system, you can find that by visiting medtronicdiabetes.com/important safety information. And just to to add a little bit of color to what Luis was saying, we know how excited everyone is. We are still in the customer training phase of the rollout of MiniMed 670G to the community. So there's a small group of people that they've started to use the system, and that's allowing us to learn and kind of validate our processes to make sure that when we roll it out to a bigger group that we can give everyone the best experience possible. But John is a great person to come and speak to about what it's really like because he participated in the clinical trial.
Yes, excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, so before we really dive into all of the good stuff, and we have a lot to talk about, but we have some really important things to talk about first. We're gonna get to know you with some really important questions.
All right.
Jelly beans or juice?
Juice.
Ah. Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi?
Diet Pepsi.
Okay. We're learning volumes here. Mountains or beach?
Beach.
Snowboarding or skydiving?
Live in Minnesota, so it depends on the season. I would say summer is skydiving, winter is snowboarding.
All right. Okay. We'll take that one. And really important, pinky or thumb for this BG checks?
It's got to be the thumb. It's up to the challenge.
Yeah. You want to protect the pinkies.
Do not be mean to the pinky.
Do not be mean to the pinky. Okay.
Exactly.
Now that you've bear with us for a little bit of silliness, you got a lot of important information about John. Maybe Luis wants to talk to him a little bit about the system.
Yeah. So actually, why don't we start by talking a little bit about the MiniMed 670G system and what it is and what it isn't. It is a new pump. It is a brand new sensor. It has the best algorithm. It has a hybrid closed-loop system, which is a fancy way of saying it thinks and it acts on your behalf. Am I forgetting a lot of other things, probably?
Well, there's a lot to it,
Yes.
sure. But it's automatically adjusting that basal insulin. So I think that's something that's really exciting to a lot of people and for people to understand. So that system is measuring your glucose every 5 minutes and making a decision on what to do with the basal insulin delivery. Of course, you still have to bolus for meals, but really big leap forward, right, in terms of the tools available to people with diabetes.
Yep, absolutely. We think it's a leap forward in terms of quality of care and in terms of quality of life, not to mention what it does for all the patients from a therapy point of view. But let's get John to talk a little bit, and I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you like to do? Your family, work, just who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. So, John Caldwell, I've had diabetes for about 30 years. I was diagnosed when I was 16 years old. I live in Minnesota right now, so enjoy both the summer and winter seasons. Hobbies I love to do, avid cyclist, like to mountain bike, snowboard, and then skydiving is obviously a passion and a hobby, and then backpacking and spending time outdoors with my wife Cheryl and my daughter Taylor.
So
Yeah.
very low-key guy is what I'm hearing.
Very laid back.
Yeah.
Definitely adventure man, mountain man, Mr. Activity. So I think that you definitely have put the MiniMed 670G system to the test, and we'll hear a lot more about it. But I'd love to hear a little bit about your kind of story. Take us back about 30 years, your diagnosis, diabetes. This had to be a surprise and a shock.
Yeah, so I was 16. I was a teenager. Last thing I thought I'd be thinking about would be how to manage diabetes or an illness like that for a lifetime, right? There's no cure. The good news is I think anyone with type 1 is not going to let them stop their life based on their condition, right? We're all trying to live a full life. And what's cool about over time, I started out on injections, finger sticks, and that evolved into pump therapy about 10 years ago, and then came continuous glucose monitoring technology, which helped. And then I think now with the 670G, that's really just taken that to the next level and really changed the game. So it's not really about you can do things that you couldn't do before as much as just take a lot of the burden away from thinking about managing your diabetes on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've been through it all. You've tried all different types of therapy, all the latest technology. But there was one moment when somebody called you up and invited you to be part of the MiniMed 670G system clinical trial. Just tell us a little bit about that day. And
yeah, so it was probably about just over a year and a half ago. I got a call asking, talking about this new technology that would basically make a lot of the decisions for you, and if I wanted to be part of the clinical trial. I think what was unique about the experience, I was joking that my onboarding program was, hey, don't do this, you're going to get kicked out of the clinical trial. And so my frame of reference was about not screwing up. But it was really neat to be part of out of the gates. Really small group of people that got to start out with that, and it's really exciting to kind of been through a lot of the things that people are starting to feel and see now as they get on the 670G, thinking back to those early days when I first got it. And so that was super fun to be part of that trial. It was really awesome to see it be able to actually come to market a lot faster than anybody would have thought as we went through that. But overall, really great experience.
Yeah. So you and about another 120 people kind of started on a journey about a year and a half ago. A lot of those partners, they're still using, a lot of those patients, they're still using the MiniMed 670G system. But we've now added another 1,000 patients in this clinical customer training phase. So you'll hear a lot more from all of those patients. But the feedback has been fantastic, and I'm sure that there was that moment where you kind of realized, hey, this is different, this is possibly better. Just tell us about what it does for you.
Yeah. So for me, I've always struggled with overnight high blood sugars down phenomenon. And I've also had a few scenarios where I was really, really low at night. And one time my wife had to call the paramedics to intervene. And so that was obviously super, super scary. But for me, day in and day out, my blood sugar being high every morning was really depressing, because it's like, all right, I'm already starting out fighting back from a high blood glucose. And so the moment I think the 670G really started to win me over was starting to wake up in the morning with a nice flat line, waking up with a great blood sugar, starting out the day in a spot where you already feel like you're winning. Really was the first moments I remember of just starting to joke that I didn't want the trial to end, right? I didn't want to give it back at the end of that. So.
And that's hard for a lot of people, right? Those morning times, and it sounds like you had a really rough time with that earlier. And just, for all of us, wake up the day going well, that sets you up for success for the rest, right?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine your job, like if the first thing your boss called you in the morning and said, hey, you did a terrible job at this, and then the rest of your day is starting out from that spot, and you're already feeling bad about it. So it's really turned that around.
That's fantastic.
So as you're going through the system and trying it out, there had to be a learning period where you kind of figured out, hey, this is now working for me. A lot of people talking about trusting the system, kind of letting go. Those are some of the words that you've used. So it's a different way of working with the sensor and working with the pump. Tell us a little bit about trust and letting go and learning to work with the system.
Yeah. So first I'd say, trust is earned. And over time, the system's obviously earned my trust. And that's started with just changing how you manage your diabetes day to day from an environment of, testing, correcting, bolusing based on a test and all things about a finger stick, and then the pump is delivering insulin, to a system that's really integrated. And that now my number one focus now, which is different than it was in the past, was to make sure the system's functioning. So trust when it says, hey, I need a calibration, I do a calibration. And if it says I need an extra blood glucose measurement, I do that. And I continue to do that up to the process where, it'll tell me what to do next. And that can be tough when you spend 30 years doing it all yourself, right? But then all of a sudden you got this buddy that's attached to your side that now is trying to tell you it knows what you're doing better than you know. And I'm like, no, I don't. And I started to find over time that when I would intercede and kind of pull veto power on it, I started to get myself, I've noticed a trend of getting myself in trouble by, overriding the pump or by taking it in my own hands. And so, it's a journey. And over the last year, I've gotten a lot better and better results by starting to just allow the pump to do its thing, the system to do its thing, and not always interceding where I would have in the past.
Yeah, I think that's a big difference, just kind of the letting go, and just the pump does a lot more. The pump and the sensor are doing a lot more for you. There's a lot of numbers. In addition to A1C, there's now numbers that you have access to that kind of help you manage diabetes. Tell us a little bit about your favorite numbers that you're now paying attention to helping manage diabetes.
Yeah. So my favorite number on the 670G is the time in range. It's a cool little pie chart. It's color coded. It's pretty simple. You can pick what values and what your personal ranges are, and what's really worked for me is looking and saying, okay, personally for me, if I'm 75% in range over the course of 7, 14, 30 days, I can feel good that I've been paying the right amount of attention in staying in range, so that when I go see my endocrinologist and get a A1C, that's going to be something I feel good about and be within the range that I want. So that's my number one thing I'm looking at right now.
I mean, the two other numbers that a lot of people talk about is the time in auto mode, which a lot of people are talking about 94% spending in auto mode, which you're feeling good about it, that you're spending a high number. But this concept of time in range, you've kind of figured out how to relate time in range to A1C and what works for you, right? And you're kind of operating in pretty good, healthy range.
Yeah, and it's awesome in the diabetes community. Like, there are people that are the Olympic athletes of time in range, right? And they're hitting 99%, and that's not me. So I'm happy in the 70 to 80. I aspire to improve that over time, but that's what's so cool about having that information and new information in your hands, so you can do with it what works for you.
Yeah.
And you were on a previous pump before, right? And so you do have some sense of how much time you were spending in range then versus now. Have you seen an improvement?
I think I would say I was on the 530G before, and I would say I didn't really pay attention. I would view the 530G was interesting data.
Right. Okay.
I think just because the sensor wasn't accurate enough for me to make bolusing decisions off of it. It was interesting info. This now is information that drives insulin delivery.
Right.
And so and it's very much more accurate. It's way more accurate. So then it becomes data that you start to take action based on. Whereas before I would have said it was interesting, not something I was making decisions on.
I think those are two of the tremendous changes. Just the sensor quality and just the ability to make decisions based on it. That's what I hear. And I love that what you said about the data and how that is not just data now, it's actually information. You're paying attention, you're following. And you're doing that on you talked about a report card, right? Your 7-day, 30-day kind of report card. I thought that was a really great way to manage things.
Yeah, no, it works great.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I was curious, do you want to tell us a little bit, you mentioned your wife and your daughter, hopefully they're watching. Do you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi Cheryl, hi Taylor.
But how has being on the system, changed maybe interactions with your family, and how do they feel about it?
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest and most impactful would be when it comes to having low blood sugar. And so I had an incident a few years ago where I didn't wake up from a low overnight, and Cheryl, my wife, had to call the paramedics, right? And so I wake up with a bunch of people in the bedroom. I'm like, what is going on here, right? And they're bringing you back, and that's really scary, and it's more scary for your family members. And so for me, the peace of mind of sleeping through the night without Cheryl worrying that I'm gonna not wake up is a big one. And then I think the other one, we talked about this today a little bit, my favorite one is that the times where she will ask for, like, hey, what's your blood? What's your symptom? Are you low? You're acting weird. No, I'm just, like, that's just me, and it's not good blood sugar. So, like, the elimination and reduction of lows, and then the ability to say, no, I'm fine, and, show a number, and it makes a big difference, too.
Maybe she has a little bit more confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
For sure.
And you also mentioned that you travel a bit for work too. So how does that all work?
Yeah, so this probably could be a subject of a whole other thing and debate. There's a bunch of million ways to do it, but so I'm super lucky I get to travel for work, and recently went to the Philippines. How I handle it with the 670 is I leave the time and everything alone until I set my foot down on my final destination. So when I get to Manila, I just set it for the day and time that it was there. And people were like digging and asking, like, oh, did it do this and did it do that? And it's like, I don't even remember, because I just set it to the new time and everything was fine. It takes a couple days for the algorithm to figure out your new routine. You just got to be mindful and watch and make sure everything's going on. But that's made that a lot easier versus worrying about what temp basal do I do when I'm in a different time zone type piece. So that's been a huge thing. And then too, like a long plane ride, if you're traveling internationally, your whole routine is different, right? You're trying to sleep, or you're watching movies, you're not doing what you would do at home, and the 670G system does a really nice job adapting to whatever's going on while you're doing it, so you don't have to worry about it as much.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
How about, so we talked a little bit about expectations, took you a little bit to get used to it. We have a lot of people out there that either just started or will be starting on the system later this summer or into the fall. What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, I would say that be patient. There's a phase where, I'll be honest, when I first was in the clinical trial, I wanted to throw it in the trash because it was alarming all the time, and it was asking me it was like hungry for blood sugar readings, right? And I was like, I gave you one, leave me alone. But then after time, once you learn a different way to manage your diabetes, you're going to start to see that it's making decisions for you that you used to think you had to make. And so I'd say patience, realistic expectations. It's not going to be something you pop on and all of a sudden your wildest dreams come true. It's going to take some work to learn it, and it's a learning curve, and it's very different. And so I'd say give it time, and it's worked well for me. And everybody's different, but that's what's worked.
I think it's important to kind of, you talked about this relationship. And the pump is getting to know you. You're getting to know the pump. You're adjusting things, and so there's a learning period, and just to trust and let go. So it's a different experience. I did want to ask John. We must ask him: is the world record holder for jumping off of an airplane?
Oh, yeah.
With MiniMed 670G. So
Yeah,
you got to tell us about how you do that and what goes into it. But how many times you've done it, how many times per day, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, so obviously skydiving is a passion. There's other type ones that jump out of planes too. So honestly, it's just like any other thing.
Not quite any other thing.
But I'm super nervous about keeping it zipped up tight. So last thing I want to do is call Medtronic and explain why my pump won't splat. But the beauty of it is just the stability and trust, right? And so if you're gonna jump out of a plane or go to a soccer game or pick up your kids for dinner, you don't want to worry about what your blood sugars are doing. And so that's why I say it's the same. Like, we all got important things to do and things that it's critical that we're healthy and safe and stable. And this has really helped make that better. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other favorite thing that I've heard you saying is that it's got a lot of great stuff, Louis, but could you guys build a pizza mode into it?
Pizza mode, yes.
Pizza mode. Tell us about that. What's with the pizza?
Just one button and say, I'm having pizza. Is
Yeah,
that what you're looking for?
Yeah, so pizza mode would be like a pre-programmed bolus for my half a pizza I'll eat.
Yeah.
It'll also know that there's a lot of cheese and fat in that pizza, and that is going to get absorbed by my body and in my bloodstream over a longer period of time. And so it would adjust the max basal rate to take care of the pizza.
So.
I think this is
It's got
good
a chance.
idea.
It's got a
Right.
chance.
Yeah. So we do have a question from the community. Is it painful? So I'm assuming that maybe you're talking about the insertion, if maybe that's what you mean, if the
Yeah.
insertion is painful?
I know for me, both the infusion set and sensor insertions, 9 out of 10 times it doesn't even feel like a finger stick is more painful. Once in a while, it doesn't, it's sticking a needle in you, so it doesn't feel
Yeah.
great. But the vast majority of it it's not been a deal.
Yeah.
Good deal.
Good stuff.
Any other sort of big advice to the patients out there? I know there are a lot of you that are eager, excited, waiting. When is my MiniMed 670G coming? How can I get it? Where can I get it?
The only other thing I would say is what's really been cool about being part of this is the communities and the online support and the people out there. There's some Facebook groups people can join where people that have the 670G are in and commenting and helping each other out. Search those out. I would say the community is a good place. I know Medtronic has information on their website and the ambassador program. Like, there's a ton of people. There's 1,000 people that have this now. There's a ton of people that like me that have had it for a year. And I think we're all more than happy to help out and talk to other people about our experience and what works.
Well, I think what you're hitting on is how one of the things that really inspired, I think, both of us, right, when we started here at Medtronic, which is what a great community the diabetes community is. There's so many people that are ready to share information and help and support. So they'll be there for you with this too.
Yeah, and I'll add that in addition to the community, which is absolutely fantastic and always ready to help and we're always ready to be there for you. I'd have to add that the 5,000 employees of Medtronic Diabetes are also ready, willing, committed, eager to kind of bring this product, this system to you. So we're trying to do our best to move it as fast as we can. We're committed to making it a great experience.
Yeah.
I think that is our mantra is to make it a great, unforgettable experience because we know it's going to do a lot for you, a lot in terms of therapy, but also in terms of the quality of care and in terms of the quality of life. And that only happens once in a decade, and I think that Medtronic is fortunate enough with the help of a lot of its partners to bring this new therapy to you. So
yeah, and we know how anxious you are, but please be patient with us as well, because what's really important to us is that as we roll it out, everyone has the best experience that we can possibly provide. So we're here and we're working incredibly hard. Everyone on the team is just working incredibly hard to deliver this to the people that can benefit from it. So that's really exciting. If you do have more questions in the meantime, you can go to medtronicdiabetes.com/access and get more information. For important safety information, you can go to medtronicdiabetes.com/important safety information. And of course, visit us on our community. Visit us on Facebook and Instagram, and we want to have a conversation with you and answer whatever questions that we can, and maybe put you in touch with people like, hear from John and his stories and many others. And thank you so much for being here with us.
John, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the stories.
Thank you.